Okay, so, wow, I'll hold it down here. So the topic is, finally getting front and center, and the main reason is a couple of statistics here I'm going to show you folks. And ISC Squared's about to publish some more statistics. They've got international statistics as well coming out. And truly, we've got retention issues. We've seen them in technology for years and years. I've been in tech for 22 years, and it's not new to me. I started in technical staffing right out of college as a social criminal justice major. And I worked for the same founders for 20 years, 3 different companies, Rapid7 after technical recruiting, and building that company to 400 folks. It's still around today, thriving and doing well. Then I went to Rapid7, got into the software business, and did a couple of stints in that world, and then sort of put the two together. And so it's not, a new thing, this retention problem that we have. It's been around for a long time. In fact, software engineers, IT professionals, it was 12 to 18 months. And it was tragic then, it's still tragic now. However, the older that I've gotten, and certainly getting into security 10 years ago, and being somebody that studied sociology, it's really bothering me from the perspective of seeing it in security, and where there's so much more at stake than whether or not a software company does well, or a company does well in general, which is usually what the technical folks are there to, sort of help money. Now we're in the business of war, and for our health and our money and lots of other things. And so it's really begun to bother me more and more over the years. And because I'm a woman and people have seen my success in my career, they've started asking me to speak out over the last few years. And as I started doing that, I realized that, wow, the main reason why I've been able to be as successful as I have, beyond sort of my own drive and willingness, is walking into a culture that was, and still is, and something that I'm still a part of, about training and developing and caring for people. And that was our #1 thing, that if you were a manager, you were responsible, and your job was to make sure that that person was successful. And you were measured by that, and you were told, and I was told, hang together or hang separately, throw the rope over the fence, bring people with you. Nobody comes to work to fail, so if you're going to have a title of leadership or management, you need to make sure they don't, and if they do, take a hard look at that and own it at some levels. And yes, we're all going to make mistakes, and however, if we come from that perspective, we're going to find more good than not. And that's what happened to me in my career, and to tons of us. There's thousands, actually, of us that started entry level, trained and promoted within from all our companies. And so, the interesting thing is, as I started to look deeper into that, and our organizations were and still are 40% women or so, and that's really cool, I found some real common things that everything had to do with words in terms of this success. And so I thought, oh my goodness, a lot of the trainings that I was brought to through being a sales professional are the same trainings that I used to lead and mentor engineering departments, all departments. But really, once I started doing that, I realized, wow, this is not about sales. This is about business and life and being happy, and cultures, retaining talent and enjoying themselves, having a good time. These statistics, a chief information security officer, I'm gonna close that thing, changing jobs every 18 months, that role is so significant, it's really scary. And it's not fun for that individual. That human is, if they're leaving their job at that level, that often, the time that they're unhappy in that seat is a long time. Because first of all, we all know job searching is broken. It's completely broken. So that's gonna take 6 months, maybe a year to find their next spot, even though we're at 0% unemployment in the industry. It's such an oxymoron, and it's true. And so that time, now we've got a vulnerability, never mind, within a security leader. It's such a mess. So I'm really putting out a call to the community to look at our words, to train on words, and to train on some real fundamental concepts. And the two that I'm really out there, making sure that we start with is measurable agreements. Every time somebody comes into my office over the years, there's a problem, there's a breakdown, there's an upset, whether it's an emotional issue or we didn't hit a project deadline or what have you, every time it comes back to the measurable agreement that did not exist. The agreement that did not exist. Meaning, a lot of times we think we have agreements because we emailed somebody, because we spoke up and said this is what we ought to do. And yet, it's not an agreement. It's a conversation. And so I talk a lot about how do we take a conversation into agreements such that we don't have breakdown. And so one is the willingness to do so. Number two is to make an agreement measurable. And coming from sales, that's sort of easy. It might not be easy to have the right metric to measure a salesperson on or the right number to put on a salesperson. However, coming into that, it was much easier to know and understand what I was accountable for. However, it doesn't mean that it's not possible to do in our technology teams and our business teams to put measurable agreements together. And so easy isn't the name of the game, and certainly nobody in technology thinks about, well, it's whether or not it's easy. However, I do find that people say, well, that's really hard. Well, it's harder to have breakdown. It's really harder to have upset in the company, and the type of cultural mess it makes when people don't love their jobs or don't love their projects. So what's a measurable agreement? Well, first of all, it's one that everybody agrees upon, so there has to be written communication, and I really encourage people to use email all the time to say, are we in agreement that this is our agreement? And you do want to be that specific. And then, is it truly measurable? And I think we all know that only math in many ways can be measurable. Better, faster, cheaper, those aren't measurable words. Anything that's left for interpretation. This is why lawyers have such great jobs, or excuse me, great jobs, are so in need, I should say. We all need to think the same way. What we show up to do at work every day is we're making a contract with each other of agreements of what we're gonna do. And those need to be so real and so specific in order to succeed, and also in order to feel good, have good feelings. And so measurable agreements is absolutely critical. And within the process of making measurable agreements, as you guys saw, the name of the talk is weaponizing your words. I use that not because I'm a fighter in particular. I use it because of this industry, but it is an interesting word to use. I've heard some interesting feedback on it. If we have some time, we'll talk later on the titles of what people think of when they think of that title. You know, don't step on the landmine, you know, of using the wrong word, right? And getting hurt. I think more about hurting others with the words I use for sure on a regular basis. And so when we're out making agreements and we're having conversations, we're discussing topics, lots going on. And what usually happens is somebody uses one of the 5 words that I say eliminate from your vocabulary, and it really makes things more difficult once the word's used. So I really like to talk about these words because I do believe we can get rid of them, and that'd be a good thing for us all. So the first word that I like to talk about is obviously. It is, and usually you'll see Sherlock Holmes up on the screen, and you know, he's so smart and everybody else is not. And that word is extremely emotional and electrifying, and I think that we all know when we hear it, we get an emotional, physical response that is not positive. Huh? Yes, it is, actually, good point. Yeah, the pictures are really fun, huh? I love pictures. They bring us all into the moment. Well, let me show you this is the picture I use for when there's breakdown in communication, which is, pointing fingers. When there's no measurable agreement, it's completely pointing fingers. And then it comes down to who's got power, who's got, political clout within the company. And that's just such an ugly place to be. So yeah, here's Sherlock. He's so cute. He's obviously, right? And like I said, when I hear this word in a meeting, my body physically reacts. And I think, what a terrible word. So it's not gonna it's not gonna help anybody. So let's just eliminate that one. And then how about the word try? This is one that I see all the time causing problems with breakdown in measurable agreements. So when I hear the word try, I know whatever we're talking about is not happening. It's not happening. There's the word try. I mean, just the word try says it's most likely not going to happen. I mean, if you drop a pin on the floor, and I usually do this when I'm having big courses, and I say try and pick it up, and people automatically pick it up. It's like, no, you picked it up. If I said pick it up, then that would have made sense. I said try and pick it up. Like the word try, there's no accomplishing anything. And so whenever those of you that are out there hearing the word try, like let it spark your mind to say, that's not gonna get done. And certainly not gonna get done in the time frame you think it's gonna get done, and that person did not make an agreement with you. So when they leave your office and they say, okay, I'll try, that's not an agreement. And if they don't do it, you can't get mad, because we all know the word try at this point. It does not mean to actually do something. So that's a biggie that I love. And then how about this one? So this one's a little interesting, because I do understand that a lot of us should, right? A lot of us run incident response and high pressure environments. And yes, when we're in those situations, say the word should all day long as a leader. However, the majority of the time, the best thing a leader could do is to let somebody come to their own conclusion of choices. And if you don't like the conclusion of the choice they came to, then you can address it then. However, taking their emotional freedom away to get to some conclusion actually stunts their ability to participate in the future, their ability to feel a part of the team, and now they're sort of just this soldier. And we all know that because security sort of comes from that notion, we're struggling communicating at the top, we're struggling getting budgets, we're struggling getting people to understand value. And most of that's because we're not really focusing on developing the business acumen. So this is a big piece that will allow yourselves and your teammates to have the opportunity to have the thought process. Give them the thought process, unless it's an emergency. And then if you don't like what they came up with, ask them how they came up with that, discuss with them, and then show them what you came up with. And then, if you need to do that, you have to do it this way, you can. You may find that the way that they came up with is something, after investigating it and exploring it, was pretty cool. And you're glad that you didn't shut it down and that you discussed it instead. So the number one reason I hear, I own and operate CyberSN. I started it 2 years ago. We're a cyber staffing firm, and that's all we do is cyber staffing. We're national. We are the largest today. I took a ton of my Rapid7 staff and a ton of my technical recruiting staff, and we're just populating the planet trying to help you guys, help this community, because it's a mess with job searching. It's terrible. And anyhow, the number one reason that people are leaving their jobs has nothing to do with money. Everybody thinks money, or even projects. It's people. I'm not enjoying the people I'm working around. So words, because I guess somebody could physically hurt somebody in a space, although that seems to be, we've put lots on that, but not words. Maybe that's what we need to do. Oh, no, we don't. But anyhow, so the actual, space that I see of how much people are suffering is massive. Every day we hear it. So should is one that I see stifling people. This is an interesting one. I use this one because as a leader, we gotta eliminate it. Fine, I'm fine. I'm doing fine, you're fine, everything's fine. I hear it a lot. You know what, I hear that a lot too. I hear people say my spouse uses it. Well, right, so what does that mean? I don't want to really talk about this, or, right? Yes.
Oh, I'm fine.
It's definitely one of those words I tell leaders, like the word try. Like your ears ought to just pop up, because something's going on. And certainly there's a level of respect that maybe somebody doesn't want to engage right at that moment, that they're dealing with something, situationally, you'll figure that out. However, it's definitely something to come back to if the moment isn't then, because fine really means I'm not fine. And it really means help me, actually. actually, because if we're all social engineers here at many levels. If somebody really doesn't want to be asked about how they're doing and they really want to cover up how they're feeling, they're not using fine. They're not. It's actually your subconscious mind asking for help. So it is one of those words that, as a leader, we want to eliminate because it's not inspiring. Nobody wants to hear it. If I just said, if you guys all asked me how I was doing, I said, fine, wouldn't make this very exciting. So, we turn on and off the lights as leaders. I remember being 25 years old and being promoted first time to oversee a region where there was nobody, an executive around. And my mentor said, are you ready to turn on and off the lights? And I thought, what the hell is she talking about? I'm the first one in and the last one out every day. But of course, at the promotion dinner, I'm like, yeah, of course. I didn't think to ask what she meant because I thought that's what she meant. Well, it wasn't until many years later when her and I were just chatting, and I said, I brought up that topic and talked to her about hours, and so she goes, you thought I was talking about hours? I was talking about, leaders turn on and off people. Everybody that walks into that space, you're turning them on, and if you choose, you're turning them off. And so, that's truly the truth, and it's our words and our energy that turns people on and off every day. So, fine as a leader, not really that exciting. Okay, this is a good one. I don't have any great pictures, so we'll just stop that. But, it's just the word but with a bunch of question marks. Oh my gosh, this one, it's really, really disturbing for most people to hear a compliment followed by the word but. In fact, it's a very subconscious pickup, and it causes a lot of breakdown because we're in meetings. Somebody's given a presentation or they're speaking. They've put a lot of time into what they're doing. They're stressed out and overworked like everybody else. And who knows what's going on at home, right? We've got some great divorce rates out in the country, right? So goodness knows what's going on most of the time. And so somebody's up there and I really like that, but. I really like what you had to say, but. The minute they hear the word but, they're devastated. And again, it's a very subconscious pickup. And if you watch it, you'll see body language change, you'll see fidgeting, you'll see facial expressions change. And it's a word that really needs replaced with the word and. And so in my vocabulary and my team, they catch it all the time. I'll catch myself saying it. It's really hard to get rid of. We were all brought up with this. So you hear it all over the news. I hear presidential candidates using it, and I'm like, ugh. It's so terrible. Just, gosh, where's that training of the words? Because it just takes away everything they just said as soon as they say but. So when I do say it, I catch myself, I correct myself, because this is language. So we're going to have language that isn't good for us to keep having. And the only way to get rid of it, and all the trainings I've been through, is to actually correct it right then and say, you know what, I want to restate that statement. I'd like to say, I really liked your presentation. There was a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about, and then you can sort of get into the things that we're all like, oh, they missed, and or what about this that we're thinking. However, when we say, I really liked your presentation, but what about this? They're not hearing you really liked their presentation. And now they're not going to be really ready to engage you to the fullest level of that second part that you now need them to engage in. So to me, I replaced that word with and. It is the word I use the most that disturbs me in my own vocabulary. I'm still working, even after 10 years, to get rid of it when I first started taking language training. And so what I do is I just stop myself and say, I'd like to change that statement and correct myself. So that's something, while we're out there, putting these things together, don't be afraid to stop yourself and re-correct yourself, because it really is valuable that people see you do that and hear you, that you care so much that you're correcting your statement. Is that 5 words? That's 5. Awesome, 5. I don't know how we're doing on time here, but since we did this so untraditionally, it's 3, so we have 15 minutes. Good, because I wanted to leave some time for questions and comments. I mean, this was scheduled for 45 minutes. This could be an entire day's course where we get into actual security sort of environment situations, and that is something that I'm almost done designing. My first class kicks off in March. I just nominated the president of Brain Babe and appointed to it. I don't know if any of you guys really know Brain Babe, but Brain Babe is my answer, my not-for-profit answer to my social service of giving back, and it hit me while I was out doing all this talking that I ought to put my money where my mouth is and go, show how easy it is to bring women into this industry when we sell them correctly on how sexy it is, and how much money's here and how cool it is and all those things. And so I've got, because I'm a liberal arts major, I really know I can go grab a bunch of liberal arts young ladies and even women that have, you know, sort of taken off time between careers and get them in our security operations centers probably in 90 days with me doing the training and Kyle. So we're kicking that off in March. We're also kicking off what I was talking about with ISSA Squared and SANS is the soft skills training day courses, 2-day courses. And it's really about this kind of stuff and everything that falls under it. I mean, there's just so much more that we can talk about.